This is data admin exercise number 4, automatic aggregation and standardization of data. In this exercise, we're going to learn how to create a data set within the system where we're going to aggregate the data from LSOA level to higher geographic levels, and we're also going to standardize the data based on pre-configured standardization methods. In this example, we have some energy consumption statistics which have been downloaded for demonstration purposes from the NES system. It's worth bearing in mind that this NES data can be imported directly from NES using the origin NES import module, but in order to provide these training scenarios, we're going to use the same data for convenience. So the first thing we want to do, as always, is inspect the source spreadsheet. In this case, the data set comprises of a number of worksheets, local authority level, MSOA level and LSOA level. And the first thing we're going to do is really delete out the unnecessary data and worksheets. As a reminder, this is simply to reduce the file size so when uploading over slower networks we don't run into any issues. So I'm going to delete the local authority worksheet and the MSOA worksheet because the system's going to aggregate to those levels, so we don't really need them. That leaves us the LSOA worksheet, and again what we see here is we have many different geographic columns in it, which we can actually delete because we only need the LSOA reference. So I'm going to delete columns A through to J, and that really leaves us with the LSOA starting in column A and the actual data starting in row 7. We can see then we have 4 indicators in columns E through to H. So when we import this data, we're going to hope to see it aggregating from lower super output area upwards, and then for each of these indicators we should have the counts available to us plus a standardized rate. So the final few changes I'm going to do to this is I'm going to rename the worksheet to data. Again, that's my choice, it can be anything you want. Save that as prepared. Again, I just like to keep a copy of source data sets before they're formatted and then the prepared version for uploading. And then at this point we're ready to go into the system and start the dataset setup and import process. So we're going to go into our manage datasets, and we're going to look for an appropriate template. This is going to be available at, it spans the entire Doric partnership, so if I just put in Doric wildcard search, it's going to filter all of my templates and list only those that span the entire partnership. And we're looking for one that has LSOA, MSOA, CAS wards and local authority. There it is there. So we're going to go ahead and click the copy button, which will copy this template and allow us to configure the dataset. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill in a name for the dataset. I'm going to call it domestic energy consumption. I'm going to put my initials. On this training system, I like to do that just so that I don't get my training data set mixed up with somebody else's. In the live system, you may want to just give it an original name. We'll leave it in the test data thing. Now this time what we're going to do is we're going to specify a few of these additional options. So under aggregation, we will use from LSOA up, and source we'll put ONS again. And for frequency, it's calendar year, so we'll just leave that. This time we're going to use standardization method, and you can see these are pre-configured standardization methods which have been set up by the system administrator. And I'm going to pick, let's just see, we have per person ONS. And I'm also going to specify a rank type of rank regions by region type, which is going to basically rank all the geographies by type. So you'll have all of the districts ranked, then the wards ranked, then the LSOS ranked, and so forth. So at that stage I'm just going to save our metadata. Obviously in the real world you'll want to put in more detailed notes for the end user. We'll save that, and now we can move on to the variable configuration. And we're going to create a new variable. So I'm going to give it a title, domestic energy consumption. And you'll see that the standardization method has been specified as per person, the rank type's there as well, and I can specify an appropriate category, so we'll put it into environment. It's worth pointing out at this stage that I can actually change the standardization method and rank type for this variable. This is useful if, for example, you are setting up maybe 3 different variables, one for total people, one for females, and one for males, and you want to have different standardization methods for each variable. So the standardization happens at a variable level, but can be defined at the dataset level, and that way that's what each variable inherits. I'm going to now click the Save Changes once again, and that'll allow me to go and start configuring the dimensions. So if we're flicking back to the spreadsheet, we have basically 4 different dimensions we want to set up. I'm going to just do the usual copy and paste job. So I'm going to click the insert dimension. So I'll give it, paste in the dimension name. The data type is whole number. The code, this allows me to do a shortcut to the column mappings. So that was column E. And null description we'll skip. That allows us basically to specify a note that will appear in the footer of the table, which will describe to end users what should be what blank values are meaning. So that could read blank values mean data suppressed, or data unavailable, or data missing, whatever is appropriate. The next one we have aggregation method, which, as a reminder, we have 3 methods. Sum, which will perform the aggregation by summing the values. Average performs the aggregation by taking an average of the values. Or we can skip the aggregation for this particular dimension. So in this example we want to sum them. Then we can specify, do we want to display the rate and rank? Let's go ahead and do that. And how is the ranking performed? One is low or one is high. We'll leave it 1 is low. We can now specify a rate label, which is optional. The system will generate its own rate label, but we can say total consumption of gas per population, and we'll just leave the rank label blank, and we'll save that. And I'm just going to copy and paste these other ones. and summing, show the rank, and add in a label. Two down, two to go. Some other functionality available in the system worth noting is it is possible to copy variables and dimensions. So if you, for example, set up a variable to represent males, you can copy the structure of that and just, for females, and just rename the indicators if that's appropriate. And likewise, you can even copy an entire data set structure, including all the variable and geography definitions, which can be very useful if you're setting up data sets that are very similar in structure. So that's our 4 indicators set up now. At this stage, we're able to return to the data set so we can complete our import configuration and upload the data. So we'll go to the import data tab, and we shall, remembering from the spreadsheet, data starts in row 7 and column A, save changes. It's also worth noting that this configuration is a one-off for the data set. We don't have to do this every time we're uploading data. So it really means that the first time you set up a new data set, it might take you 10 or 15 minutes, but subsequent uploads to that data set should only take a few minutes. So we can see here we have the variable configuration automatically in place with columns E, F, G and H. Let me just double check that, E, F, G and H. And we don't have to specify the rate columns because we've specified automatic standardization. The system's going to calculate that itself. But we'll just click or save changes. Just always good practice to do that. We've no red messages left at the top there. That shows me that everything should be good to go. So we'll go into the import tool and start the data import. So now we're ready to upload the source data, and before I do that, I want to just talk a little bit about this aggregation checkbox. Basically, when it's checked, it means that the source data is going to be aggregated up to the other levels. Unchecking it allows you to basically do overwrites of data that you may need to do to suit your own needs. For example, you might find that there are certain geography types that don't aggregate, so you might have to upload a worksheet separately for that, and that allows you to do that. So for this example, this is calendar year data for 2008, I believe, so we'll pick 2008. Then we're going to pick our data file to upload, and we're going to run the import. And as always, this will take a few seconds, a few minutes, something in between, really depending on your own network speed and of course the size of the file we're trying to upload. So that's now complete, and we can see that it has inserted 3,980 records, which is a calculation of the number of regions uploaded plus the regions aggregated, multiplied by the number of indicators. And we're now at a position where we're able to go and configure security, so we can browse and check the data. So I'm going to make this available to test data. I'll put it into the test theme, and I'll make it available to test users. We'll save that. And now we can go into the data browser. We'll look in our drop down list here, and there we go, domestic energy consumption with my initials. We can select our data and we'll look at just district level data. And we simply click the view selection, and the data should be presented in tabular form. You can see the 4 districts here with the aggregated counts and the standardisation calculated, and also the rate applied. And at that point we have now completed this training exercise. We can, of course, in the real world, go back to the dataset configuration, make any metadata changes that are appropriate and any security changes to publish the data to other users. That completes data admin training exercise number 4.